The Nordic country of Finland has been a strong supporter of Ukraine in its conflict with Russia. It supplied military equipment and training. But this once neutral country has now decided to join NATO alongside its neighbour Sweden. And that's meant signing a deal with Turkey to address its security concerns in return for Ankara's support. I'm Andrew Hopkins, and I've been speaking to the Finnish Defence Minister, Antti Kaikkonen, one-on-one. Antti Kaikkonen, thank you very much for talking to TRT World. Let's start with the conflict in Ukraine. It's been going on for nearly 10 months now. There doesn't seem to be an end in sight. It's winter and it's causing all sorts of problems for the people involved. How do you think this conflict can be brought to an end and at the same time there be a lasting peace?
Well, this is a big tragedy that we have a war in the middle of Europe. The situation is really bad. It has been bad for 10 months or so already, and unfortunately I don't see any rapid end for this war. I'm afraid it will take a long time. Both Turkey and Finland are worried about the situation. We talked about this with my colleague, Minister of Defense Akar today also. And I appreciate the good work Turkey has done when mediating talks between Russia and Ukraine. But I'm afraid there is no enough basis for peace at the moment. But we have to keep on working with this. Hopefully soon we get a ceasefire and the peace talks, but it will take time, I'm afraid.
Do you think the only way the conflict can be brought to an end is by the complete defeat of Russia?
Well, I think that would be the best option, because this attack is unjustified, and most of the world have condemned it. Also the illegal annexation of regions of Ukraine. But at the end, it's the decision of Ukraine to decide when it is ready to talk about ceasefire and peace.
Also on the subject of the war in Ukraine, I understand that Finland has offered to give the Ukrainian military winter training. What is your priority at the moment in terms of what is going on there?
Well, Ukraine can survive only if it gets military aid from other countries, and that's very important. And many countries, also Turkey and Finland, most European Union countries, most NATO countries have been helping Ukraine, and it's very important in the future also. We've donated 10 different packages of defense material aid, and we have some plans to continue as long as it is needed. One part of our assistance is training assistance. We are in British-led project already when training Ukrainians, and we are considering to participate in the European Union mission on training Ukrainian soldiers in the near future. We haven't made decisions on that yet, but it is very much possible that we participate also to that. Well, the winter is coming, and it will be a tough time certainly in the war and Ukrainian civilians also. So it will be very challenging the forthcoming months, unfortunately.
Now, because of the conflict in Ukraine, you yourselves, Finland and Sweden, have applied to become members of NATO, and you're undergoing that process at the moment. And already this year, you've signed a memo of understanding involving Sweden, but also with Turkey as well, in which your countries have undertook to do things like take more action against terrorist groups like the PKK. And that process is still ongoing. The talks are still taking place. So where are things at the moment, and what issues remain to be resolved between Finland and Turkey?
Yes, we indeed signed the Memorandum of Understanding together with Sweden and Turkey in Madrid Congress, and we are committed to that memo. and Finland is committed to work and fight against terrorism. Actually, this is crystal clear for us in Finland, no doubt about that, and Turkey can count on us on this. We are committed to work on the basis of that memorandum. I say it's Turkey's decision to decide when we can move forward. But hopefully we can move forward pretty soon in this accession process to NATO, because I think, and I'd say, and actually I'm sure that it would be good for Finland, it would be good for Sweden, it would be good for Turkey, and it would be good for NATO. So it would be a clear win-win situation.
But do you know if there are any specific areas that have been agreed already between yourselves and Turkey on this particular memo, that no further action is needed, and if there are specific areas that are still outstanding?
I'd say that we have to look at the MMO as a whole, and proceed with that. We've done a lot of progress, and we are ready to go on with that memorandum in the future as well. But the sooner the better we can be members of NATO, and that's our clear goal. And also Turkey has said also today that it supports strongly the NATO open door policy, which is of course of utmost importance for us. And I'd like to add that in these kind of windy times in world politics and the severe security situation in Europe, I think it would be good to proceed in this matter.
A few days ago, the Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said that Finland had still not lifted the arms embargo that it had put in place in 2019 when Turkey carried out a military operation in northern Syria. So is that still the case, and why is it still in place, and do you have any plans now to lift it under this memo that you've signed with Turkey?
As stated in the memorandum of understanding, there is no arms embargo, so no arms embargo at the moment. We consider the permissions to export weapons on a case-by-case basis, and we take into account, of course, the common EU lines, our national guidelines, but also in the future we will take into account that we will be allies with Turkey.
But are there any restrictions now? So you say there's not an embargo, but are there particular restrictions in place on arms cooperation, arms sales to Turkey that you know of?
I'd say it's the same line with the other countries. It's the case-by-case consideration.
So you can't give a blanket guarantee that the restrictions are being lifted at the moment?
There's no arms embargo at the moment, so in theory it's possible to make new decisions on this. Of course, we need applications first, and then our administration will accept those or not. It depends of the what kind of permission is needed. We take these case by case.
Some of the comments from Turkish politicians recently, including the president, suggest that if Finland was applying on its own to join NATO, that they would approve your application pretty soon. They would give your support. Is that the sense you're getting from the Turkish side?
Well, we've heard some of this kind of signs from here and there, but Sweden is a very close partner to Finland, and we've decided to go hand in hand here, and I think it would be best for NATO as well to accept both countries at the same time. So that's our goal.
But have the Turkish side given you these kinds of comments in private, any kinds of undertakings like this?
I don't comment private talks.
Do you have any idea of the time scale?
But I have to say today we didn't have such discussions.
Do you have an idea of the time scale of this process of negotiation with Turkey and Sweden that's taking place now? Do you have an idea yet of when it might reach a conclusion?
We don't have any exact date on that. We are also awaiting ratification from Hungary. They've said that they will ratify early next year, and hopefully we get ratification from Turkey also soon. The sooner the better.
Also, obviously, you're now on this visit to Turkey. You've been invited by the Turkish Defence Minister to come, and I understand you had a meeting with him in October in Brussels at a NATO meeting then. So it seems like relations between your two countries are going rather well at the moment. Would you agree with that statement? And I would suggest maybe there's a contrast here between your Swedish counterpart hasn't had this meeting, hasn't had an invite yet. So it looks like your relations are progressing very well with Turkey at the moment.
Well, the Swedish Prime Minister was actually here already, although there are discussions also between Sweden and Turkey, and we have also trilateral discussions. But yes, I'd say we have we had a good spirit in our discussions today with my colleague Hulusi Akar, and a very constructive approach from both sides, I'd say, and I think this visit to Turkey was very useful.
So are you actually discussing at the moment how the two countries are going to cooperate once you're inside NATO?
Not much, because the most important thing for us at the moment is to get into NATO, to become a full member. But I'm sure that there will be a good cooperation between our countries when we are full members of NATO. We do have some similarities, and we do have some common security concerns, but also some similarities between our armed forces. For example, both countries have conscription service, and there are not so many countries in Europe with such system, and looking forward for that cooperation also. I'm sure that there are things that could be useful for both countries.
Are you also talking about issues like defence cooperation in terms of buying products from Turkey? A lot of countries, their representatives come here, and there's a lot of fuss about drones, for instance, a lot of interest in the drones that are manufactured in Turkey. So are you looking at things like that, or other areas where you can cooperate on manufacturing or looking to buy certain products?
We weren't today focused on these issues, but we know the good knowledge, for example, of drones Turkey has. But the defense forces are responsible for so to say, shopping list, what kind of shopping list we have, and well, it's not excluded. That's what I can say at this stage.
Antti Kaikkonen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.